Hi everyone, it's me, Tim, and today I want to talk about Elden Ring and EverQuest. And you may be going, what do these games have to do with each other? I will explain. So, I know I said I wasn't going to review a game. Please don't consider this a review of either Elden Ring or EverQuest. I was talking with a friend of mine a few months ago, and I mentioned that Elden Ring was one of my favorite games from last year, from 2022. And he was really surprised because, as he reminded me, I wasn't really into the Dark Souls games. I didn't hate them, they just weren't for me. I found them to be very linear, and I found the combat to be very choreographed. It's the same reason I liked most of WoW, but I didn't like WoW's raids, because those attacks felt like dance choreography. It was like attack, attack, stand behind this pillar, wait, wait, step out, attack, wait, wait, move forward. Half of Dark Souls fights felt like that. It was like hit, roll, back up, shoot, roll. It was a very specific kind of gameplay that did not appeal to me. So I was trying to figure out how to explain to him why I liked Elden Ring, and I finally hit on it. He and I had played EverQuest for years, and I said, I like Elden Ring for the same reasons I like EverQuest. And I waited for him to go, oh, okay, but instead he went, I'm more confused than ever. So I said, okay, let's walk through why I like both of those games and how they're similar. First of all, both games, EverQuest and Elden Ring, have brutally hard combat. Like, punishingly hard combat. Combat where you make a mistake, you die. However, both of them had the same element in that if you did die, you usually knew why you were being killed, and it was usually your fault. Like, oh, I saw him start to cast that, I should have stepped out of the way. Or I didn't get this combo off fast enough. It was almost always, okay, that was my fault, which I liked. I'd rather have it be my fault than go, killed again by lag, or killed again by random number generator. Both of the games put very high level creatures in very low level zones. I was thinking of the tree sentinel that you encounter like right when you step outside in Elden Ring, and it made me think of the griffins in East Commonlands, or the griffin, I guess there's only one, that you are literally like level 4 or 5 and you step into East Commonlands and the most you've dealt with are low level skeletons, and you see an inn in the distance and you're walking through a forest and bam, you're one-shotted by a griffin that flew in and you never saw coming. It was that kind of you're always in danger no matter where you are that made those games feel, they put me on edge in a good way. Both games are also soloable, eminently soloable. However, with both games, some classes are easier to solo than others. For example, in EverQuest, the Necromancer and the Druid were eminently soloable. The first one because it had a really good pet, the latter because it could kite. Elden Ring had a very similar thing. I started with a melee class and was having a lot of trouble. I switched to a magic class, mowed through several zones that had caused me so much issues with the melee player. And I'm not saying the game is designed a certain way. It's just, for me, way easier with a magic using class. Similarly, both of those games got easier with multiplayer. Once you joined a group, or once you went through with somebody to attack, if you had someone help you to take on a boss, so much easier, like orders of magnitude easier. However, both games suffered from other players being able to grief you really badly. And in fact, I noticed that some of them in Elden Ring were using the same techniques that I'd seen 25 years before in EverQuest, including having someone trick you to go into a really bad area and get killed, or telling you can go somewhere and it's safe, that's environmental, and no, you fall to your death, or attacking you and then going somewhere you can't get to, or you can't figure out how they got there. Especially if you're a melee class and they're like, okay, they're up on something and I don't know how to get up there and they're shooting spells at me. So, yeah, From Software probably could have looked into that a little more, because when I was playing, I was like, I've seen these griefing techniques before. One thing I thought, and I'm going to be careful how I say this, both games had system design elements that many people called bad, and I just thought as these have been used before, and people did not enjoy them. The first one that hit me that was really hard was losing XP when you die. EverQuest did that. Elden Ring does it. WoW started out doing it and then got rid of it. Or they made it so you get this resurrection sickness and then a few minutes later it's gone. Nobody really likes that. Nobody likes losing a level because you die. I feel like I've done this. I've been through it. Now, a similar thing, both Elden Ring and EverQuest had fan bases that support that decision wholeheartedly. Okay. It's one of the things that made me not like those games, but overall, I love them. Another thing that really, really confused me was the weapon grading system. When you get a new weapon in both games, you want to know, is this better than the one I've got? And I don't need it to be a monotonic function. I don't need, this weapon is obviously better than this one because it's a 97 and this one's a 96. But I would like to understand what I'm seeing in a weapon so I know, is this good for me? Elden Ring used letter grades A through E plus S. And by the way, E is worse than A, but S is better than A. So, I mean, that was one of the things I'm like, I do not understand this at all. EverQuest weapons, by the way, were so complex and so hard to compare that people made online tools that you could type in the name of the two weapons and it would tell you, okay, this is what they do, these are classes that would use them, this is a build that may like it over this one. Basically, way too complicated, which leads me to my next one, which is both Elden Ring and EverQuest had things that were so complicated and so obtuse and so poorly explained that you had to go look online to figure out what was going on. For Elden Ring, I was 4 hours into the game and still hadn't leveled up. And I was like, what is going on? I finally had to go online and look up that you not only had to find a specific site of grace, but rest at it. It wasn't enough to find it. You had to rest at it. And only after that did you get a cinematic that then somehow opened up leveling. You know, the most basic function of any RPG, leveling up, starts the game locked off. And I thought, I don't know who thought of that. I would rethink that. Both games, by the way, make you search for spells if you're a magic class. And they never tell you what spells are available or where they are. You just have to find them. So inevitably, everybody just goes online and looks up where they are and where they should get them because they weren't randomized. But it was one of those things that I'm like, would it have been so bad to have made spells aspirational? That whenever you get a spell, maybe that person says, and the next spell is given by Trainer Bob in this hard-to-find location. I don't think that would have been awful to do, but hey. Both Elden Ring and EverQuest I found to be wildly inconsistent in their combat, both by level and class. Pretty much actually by any access you may choose. Some low-level creatures were really tough, and high-level ones weren't. Some of the bosses I found trivial for one class, but then when I go online and people were saying how hard it was, and they were playing a different class. Some bosses had these really like one-hit kills, but you had to be within a certain range, and so if you're playing a ranged class and you just stay out of that range, you're fine. Some fights in Elden Ring were really easy on horseback, but really hard on foot. You just have to figure that out. Some, and this got important later because you can find those objects that let you summon NPCs to fight with you. Some of those bosses were trivial with some of the summons and almost impossible with other summons. In fact, some of the summons hurt you. So at least EverQuest in that regard let you consider an enemy. They had a /con for consider. That would give you some hint at its difficulty. But even then, EverQuest also had, you could look at an enemy and it looked like it's going to be really hard. And for some reason, something you could do with your class, either you could outrun it, you could jump up to something they couldn't get to, or something that lets you take them out easily. I liked that both games let you go to any zone you want at any time. They didn't really block them off. And because of the previous point I made, where some creatures were just easier to kill than others, you could usually attack and kill some of the creatures in that new zone, even if that zone is higher level than you. You could usually find some creatures you could attack. Of course, it also meant you were always at risk for finding a creature that would one-shot you. But that's part of the appeal of the game. The clincher for me, that really made me go when I was playing Elden Ring, I am playing EverQuest, was when I found the Mimic Veil, which lets you transform into a nearby inanimate object. This was exactly what I could do with one of my favorite classes in EverQuest, the Enchanter, where I would cast a spell and you would just turn into something like a torch or a campfire or a shrubbery. It was fun. It was really fun in EverQuest where there were other players to see you do it, but I liked doing it in Elden Ring as well. But that was the one that made me go, I need to look back at this game because it's making me think of EverQuest. There was one other thing before I'm done, because I know I've been rambling a lot about Elden Ring and EverQuest. There was something about Elden Ring that made me think of Morrowind. I mentioned in a previous video I'd played a lot of Bethesda games getting ready for Starfield, and I played Morrowind. When I was playing Morrowind, there were things I loved about it, and then I went, wow, this is like Elden Ring. A big open world, no quest markers, you have to find quest givers, and then remember where they were and where they told you to go. There were no indications of how your decisions were going to affect you in the future. You just had to make a choice and live with the consequences. And then finally, both Morrowind and Elden Ring had big annoying birds that could attack you from above and kill you. I'm not saying I love that, but wow, did it make me think of Morrowind when I got to that point. Anyway, I know this sounded kind of negative, but I really did enjoy Elden Ring. And I think part of the reason that open world, I could choose where I wanted to go, I could choose what I wanted to attack, I could choose how I wanted to outfit my character, that made Elden Ring much more appealing than the Souls games for me. And I think I had tried the Souls games and not really enjoyed them that much, but I really loved Elden Ring. So I think when I finally got through this, my friend understood why I consider Elden Ring and EverQuest very similar games. Anyway, I hope you found this enjoyable to hear me ramble about two very different games and how I found them to be similar.